So I still remember clearly to this day the call from Trent early in 2013 when he said, yeah, I have this great deal. He says, there's another developer that wants to develop this property, and they have a preliminary drawing, and they had a plan, and the Royal Oak was already quite developed. It had come quite a long ways, and there's this barren lot. And he says, it just seemed like such a sweetheart deal, and he said, I can't figure out why these guys sort of walked away from this deal. So he called me up, and I said, well, you know, we can look at it, we'll help you run through some numbers, and we can budget the cost for construction, and we can look at the end costs and see how it stacks up. And he's like, yeah, but I have 48 hours to put a $500,000 non-refundable deposit to close this deal. So I was like, holy smokes. So we started running through the construction numbers. We got him a reasonable, accurate budget, and we started to analyze and look at the final cost and the process to say, okay, is your return on investment via lease, or is it going to be? We came up with a plan that potentially to condominiumize each unit and sell them, and the more we ran the numbers, the more we realized that the deal looked extremely good, and so he was excited to move forward, and I said, but you know, get me the so we went through whatever drawings he had, which were very preliminary, and we decided to fly out and to look at the site, and sort of the essence of what, and if you, the rendering that he had showed this, you know, this large multi-level strip mall, and I think it was 28,000 square feet. But what the drawings that he had didn't speak to was the gargantuan. You remember the huge hill and the huge Mormon church on the top of the hill that was bigger than life itself. And so when we saw that, we knew that added fairly significant layer of complication in terms of how are we going to construct this. His property had to go into that hill, and it had to go into it a fair distance. When we were talking with Trent, we were trying to figure out why that original project with the original development group kind of got put on hold, or why did they want to sell, why did they not want to move forward. And Trent seen it as such a good deal, and we verified those costs, and we verified the construction costs, and we worked through them with all the feasibility, and no one could understand why they were eager to sell this, to sell the land and the preliminary drawings that they had. And once we sort of delved into it, we came to understand that in terms of a developer, they had a nice little building package, and they had identified the large hill, and again, the hill was substantially more than sort of identified in the early drawings, but they had the theory of the retaining, and the other problem with their theoretical retaining wall was that the hill came up on a slope. So when we actually started to run the math, we realized that the retaining wall wasn't significant enough, and further to that, no one had accounted for the time for the foundation. So the retaining wall gets built first, and if it's at the final elevation, that's wonderful. But if the guys that show up to construct the building have to excavate an additional 2 meters to install the foundation, they undermine the wall. Combined with the fact that there was in the one corner a high water table, this wall would have let go, and the potential to impact a substantial area of the church's property, huge liability. So the challenge, or why we feel that this job was shelved, was because when they got into it, they realized they hadn't accounted for the additional depth to the retaining wall. The additional depth to retaining wall meant that the excavation to accommodate that safely had to go too far into the church's property. So it would have went too far into the. So consequently, what we came up with was a kind of a 3-part integrated design where we minimized the depth of this footing, where we revised the geotextile that supported the wall to minimize the back cut, and we came up with a plan to operate remote control equipment in this area to maintain a safe working environment without having to over excavate too far into the church's property. Consequently, it was a very successful project, and from a cost perspective and a safety perspective and a final construction perspective, everything worked well, and the developer was extremely pleased.